Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Full Funnel live podcast and the session on strategic positioning with Mark Evans. And by the way, if you stay until the end, Mark is going to offer anybody who wants to kind of give them feedback on their own positioning or any other advice that you might wish to hear from him about your positioning. Anyhow, please drop in the comments if you're hearing us, where you're calling from, where you're dialing in from. Would be really good to know. If you're hearing us, seeing us, just let us know. And in the meantime, just a quick note, we are running these live podcasts every week for our community, the trenches. And we had guests like Pep Laya, Rand Fishkin, and many more. So make sure to subscribe or join our B2B marketing community. I will also drop the links in the chat so you can do that. But let's focus on today's topic. So today we have, hello, Mohammed. So today we have a special guest. His name is Mark Evans, and he's the principal of Marketing Spark. That's his company. And Mark is a fractional CMO helping fast-growing B2B SaaS companies attract and engage the right buyers. He's specialized in demand generation, positioning, messaging, and content-driven marketing. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking about the powers of positioning.
Awesome. It's one of my favorite topics. And, when it's also, I feel like one of the most misunderstood topics in a way. Like there may be a lot of people who know the term, but what is it really? Why is it so important? And I always think like, if you look back at, when I started my own first startup back in 2011, compared to what we have today, I think we had a growth of like 6,000% or something in terms of how many new startups got created. And if you look, I always also think about these categories. If you go to like G2 Crowd or any of those kind of listing directories, app directories or whatever, and you just take any category, how many are there? So can you just like for everybody explain why do you think positioning is so important, and maybe just also kind of define it for everybody?
So let me start why positioning is important. I mean, if you look at G2 or Capterra, there are dozens, if not hundreds of companies in every single vertical, every single category doing exactly what your company is doing. They sell at the same prices, same benefits, same features. So how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you differentiate? You can obviously spend a lot of money on marketing, but fundamentally it starts with positioning and how you are unique within the marketplace. Even a small difference can make a big impact. And so positioning, if you're looking to define it, is a high level strategic exercise that sets your business apart. It articulates 4 key pillars: what you do, who you serve, why what you do matters to them, and how you're unique. And as important, it shapes how prospects and customers see your brand and products. So that is positioning in a nutshell. And I would argue that positioning is starting to attract increasing attention for 3 reasons. One, many companies, particularly B2B SaaS companies, are seeing enormous growth over the last couple of years. And there's an appetite and a budget to refresh positioning to accelerate sales and marketing. 2, the pendulum is swinging back to marketing fundamentals. It's not to say that MarTech isn't important, but more companies are spending time on branding and branding. And number 3, as I said earlier, in fiercely competitive markets, clear and competitive positioning provides companies with a competitive edge. So that's positioning in a nutshell.
Oh, you nailed it. I couldn't have defined this better. Now, I think, like I mentioned, I think there's also somehow some misunderstandings about the term, and I think it probably also has to do with the practical framework, and we are going to dive into that later because, like, maybe people also understand what it is, but how do you do it is another interesting question that we'll tackle. But can you first address, like, what would you say are the biggest mistakes that B2B companies make when they're working on their positioning?
Number one is that sadly, most B2B companies don't work on their positioning at all. It's all about product and tactical execution, and they forget the fact that positioning underpins your marketing, sales, hiring, and investment activities. But a lot of companies, they don't even think about their customers, for that matter. It's almost like they overlook a key pillar of how their business is supposed to establish itself. And a lot of companies, when they think of positioning, they think of taglines, elevator pitches, mission statements, vision statements, even website headlines, and none of that is positioning. That comes out of positioning, and some of it looks like messaging. But I would argue that if you looked at 90%, 80% of B2B tech companies and looked at their websites, you can tell right away that they haven't spent any time at all on their positioning, because you really can't tell what they do and frankly how they're unique and why you matter to them.
And one thing perhaps that everybody should realize, you have a position, whether you work on it or not. It could be a very generic one, or it could be something you have actually chosen, right?
Exactly. I'll give you an example. And I think a lot of people, when they think of positioning, they think there has to be a lot of sizzle, or they have to be overly creative, or they have to come up with something that is extraordinarily unique. But the reality is that positioning really reflects the essence of your product, the essence of your brand. So I'll give you an example. I have a client, they're involved in helping life sciences companies do content. And they were grappling with their positioning, trying to differentiate themselves from larger competitors. And what they talked about when we were talking about positioning is how their product is easy to use and easy to implement. And their customers tell them the exact same thing. It's why they love the product. So after a series of discussions, I said to them, listen, your positioning is that your product is easy to implement and it's easy to use. People actually use your product. And it's not the most creative positioning in the world, but it is what they do. It's how they excel and why customers like their product. And I think it's an important lesson to recognize that even a small sense of how you're different is important. And if you can talk the talk, if you can and walk the walk, then your position can work for you.
And I love the example because how, like you explained it at the beginning, positioning has these 4 components, and one of them is who are you selling, who is your ideal client, who is the market, and then also how you're unique. And actually, you just need to be unique in that market, like what you said. Like, they are for life sciences and they're easy to use. And I'm sure if they would go in another market, it would be another story, right? Now, can you tell us, because like we said, companies just have a kind of default position. They don't work on that. They work on tactics, etc. But how would you, like, imagine you're a CMO, even, or a founder. How would you know if your positioning is not really working, if it sucks, if it's just a generic one? What would be the kind of the red flags?
So some of it is quantitative and some of it is qualitative. Some of it you can tell right away when you look at your Google Analytics or your dashboards that something's going on. And some of it is really more of a feel, or it's anecdotal, or it's what you're hearing in the marketplace. So there's a number of indicators that your positioning is not working. And what number one is that, or you have to change it. And number one is that your rivals have adopted new positioning. Now, when we talk about strategic positioning, it's strategically positioning yourself vis-a-vis other companies in your marketplace. So what you want to do with your positioning is that you can't talk and walk like they do. You can't, you try to avoid sounding the same and highlighting the same kind of differences. That doesn't work for you. Number two is that when you talk to your customers, the pains that they're talking about, the problems that they're experiencing, aren't what your marketing doesn't reflect in your marketing. You're talking about one thing and they're telling you another, so your positioning's off. Number three, if you're a salesperson, you're going through your deck and it's not resonating. There's no tell me more. There's no excitement. There's no buzz. the way that you talk about your product is that there's a disconnect with your prospects and customers. Number 5, if you're an analytics person, your bounce rates are higher on your website and conversions are lower. That's a sign that what you're saying on your website, which is the messaging part that comes out of positioning, isn't working. Advertising campaigns aren't performing. So those are the biggest sort of indicators that positioning is off. Some of them you can measure and some of them not so much.
Love it. And if you think about positioning, to make it as concrete as possible for everybody who's listening here, can you share some examples of good positioning and maybe some that are not so good?
Yeah, I've got a couple of examples. And I don't mean to embarrass the companies that I'm talking about, but it's better to talk about real life than concepts here. So number 1 is a company called Chili Piper. And Chili Piper is a sales tool, very popular sales tool. They have an amazing presence on LinkedIn. Their corporate page, just as an aside, is a good example of what a good LinkedIn corporate page should be. So original positioning for Chili Piper, and you need to bear with me here. So it's complete meeting automation for revenue teams. Chili Piper is the #1 meeting lifecycle automation platform, helping revenue teams connect with buyers faster across all stages of the customer lifecycle. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they're different. I don't know how they're relevant to me. So if you break apart that positioning, it's complete meeting automation, it's complete meeting automation for revenue teams. Do you think customers talk like that? Probably not, right? They try to position themselves as unique by calling themselves the #1 meeting lifecycle automation platform. Who said they're that? Like who defined them as being the #1? It sounds like they did, and that's not believable. And the thing about positioning is you have to believe it. It has to ring true with the people that matter, and that is obviously prospects and customers. And so when you look at that positioning, you say to yourself, that's not landing. That sounds like somebody got together and they mashed together a bunch of ideas and figured out that's what they did. To their credit, Chili Piper updated their messaging. So the last time I looked, it was completely different. And so their new messaging is make meetings happen. Okay, I understand that. That's pretty clear about what they do. And they call themselves, they say that their advanced scheduling software helps B2B revenue teams double their conversion rates, increase customer satisfaction, and reach new levels of productivity. Okay, that's much better positioning because it's obvious about who they serve and the benefits of their platform. So that is one example of bad and good positioning. So I'll give you another example. It's a company called 23. They do a number of things. One of the things that they do is they have a webinar platform. And so their current messaging, their current positioning is professionalize your webinars with the most powerful webinar tool. Discover why thousands of the world's leading webinar professionals have upgraded to 23 to create engaging and meaningful experiences. That's not good positioning. That really doesn't tell me why they matter to me, other than the fact that maybe thousands of other people are using it. So what I did is I dug into their product. I looked at some of their features that they offer, and it's a very feature-rich platform. And what I came with in my own positioning, I should actually share it with them, is that 23 is the webinar platform for marketers who want results, not just an audience. Everything you need to organize, promote, and analyze to turn webinars into leads and customers. It's not the most creative positioning in the world, but it strikes me that it's a lot more effective than what they're doing right now. And the thing about positioning is that in a fast-moving world, you have so little time to connect with people. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you don't make it clear almost immediately what you do and why what you do is relevant, then they'll click away. And there are dozens, if not hundreds, of companies that are competing for attention. And so you need to capture people when you have the opportunities to do it.
I love those examples, and I love that you mentioned like it's not creative, but I think a lot of people make that mistake of trying to be creative, and as a result, they end up not being clear. I will always go for being simple and clear over creativity in there, especially when it comes to positioning. Now, we have these examples, and by the way, everybody who is joining us here live, you can also share your examples, and we're going to dive into them. Mark is going to give you feedback, maybe some ideas about how to improve your positioning. So think about it. You can already drop your positioning if you like in the comments. In the meantime, we're going to address one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, with I think the positioning has a positioning problem.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a big part of it is because there are a lot of people who talk about position, a lot of articles, etc. They don't give you like a step-by-step process, something that you can actually easily implement with your team. And I know that you have an awesome process. So would you mind sharing your process with us?
Sure. It's a 10-step process, and I don't want people to get too overwhelmed by the fact that it's 10 steps, but it really covers the fundamentals of positioning, and you can approach this any way you like. And so it really starts with what I call state of the union. It's a matter of getting a lay of the landscape, like what's going on within the industry. What are the key trends? What are things that customers are struggling with? What is the big picture in terms of what you need to look at and where you're at with your own marketing and your position? Like really trying to figure out like how are we doing? How's our marketing doing? How's our sales doing? How do we sort of look at things from a holistic point of view? Number two is putting the spotlight on you. So when I start with my positioning clients, what do you do? Like break it down really simply. I really don't care about your platform. I don't care about your technology. What I care about is what you do and the benefits of the value delivered by your product. Going back to your focus on simple, keep it simple. Don't try to complicate it with industry vernacular or inside baseball talk. Because if you can't explain to your grandmother, for example, what a product does or what your company does, then that's a fail. So the spotlight is on you, the benefits, and how you're unique. So you really want to spend the time to figure out answer those key questions. Number three is the people that matter, and that's your customers. And I would argue that one of the biggest mistakes made by many B2B companies is that they don't know their customers well enough. They say they do. They claim that customers are important. They probably don't talk to them enough. They certainly aren't listening with intent. And if you're not doing that, then you have no idea what their pains really are. And it's important, you don't know how they do their jobs. And you don't know what their day-to-day lives are like. So you can't position your product to address those pains, to solve those problems, to make their day-to-day life a lot easier. So when you're doing a positioning exercise, you got to go out and talk to your customers. You've got to talk to customers who love you, customers who use you, but they're not totally in love with you, new customers, and even talk to prospects that you tried to engage and you couldn't close a deal, and go back to them if you can and say, listen, just out of curiosity, what was it about our product that didn't resonate? What was it that we said that didn't land with you? Why did you pick somebody else? It gives you perspective in terms of the things that you should be focused on and who you should be focused on. So that's number three. Number four is who else is out there? Like, as I mentioned earlier, every single company, no matter how unique you think you are, no how wonderful your product is, there's tons of competition. And they're all working on their positioning as well. They're trying to put themselves within sort of the competitive matrix to stand out from the crowd. And you have to study your competition. And a lot of people say, don't worry about the competition. Don't pay much attention to that. I take the opposite approach. I think you should be obsessed with your competition, and you should be looking at their marketing and sales activity, and you should be monitoring how they're positioning themselves. How does the language on their website change? How does their advertising change? And as a result, you need to not only establish your own positioning, but you need to adjust your positioning all the time. So at the very least, you should revisit your positioning every quarter to make sure, is it working? Is it effective? How does it stack up against the competition? Number five, see the big picture. What's going on within the industries? What are some of the key trends over the horizon? What are some of the challenges facing customers now, and some of the things that you think are going to impact them down the road? So it's not only the here and now, but it's looking at where the market's going. What's going on as far as the technology? Is the landscape expanding? Are new players moving in? So you really have to take a look at it from an industry-wide perspective. Next would be to take a strategic approach. So positioning can happen in different ways. So if you are Walmart, for example, your positioning would be that you have the lowest prices. If you're Zappos, it would be that you have the world's most amazing customer service. If you're Nike, strategically, you position yourself as the brand that helps people strive to excellence. And if you're Domino's Pizza, your positioning would be based around speed of delivery, the fact that that experience can happen like almost right away. So you have to sort of pick a strategic lane that you can rally around. So it reflects how, in fact, you're different. And then strategically, what is the main theme that you're going to run with? And next is when you do a positioning exercise, you're going to have a huge amount of information about your customers and the competition and the industry. And the next thing you really need to do is boil down the ocean. It's like you need to take all this information and squeeze as much out of it as you can, so you come up with the essence of positioning, which is the deliverables. And this is the interesting thing about positioning is deliverables are a brand positioning statement, value propositions. You can do a strategic narrative or an elevator pitch. And those are the fundamentals of a positioning exercise. And from there, you can start to do your marketing, your website, your social media, your sales decks, all the things that come out of positioning.
All right. And you are talking about updating your messaging, right? But I think, what I've seen in some examples as well, that if you're thinking about implementing your positioning, can it not impact also other aspects like your product, the way you serve your customers, maybe even your business model?
Exactly. The reason why I'm such an advocate for positioning is that there is tremendous ROI, and that comes from the fact that it impacts everything across the board. So the low-hanging fruit for positioning is your website, so that what you do, who you serve, and how you're unique is front and center. So when you visit a website that answers those key questions, that quickly delivers the information that a prospect or a customer needs, you know that they spent the time to do their positioning, and they've taken out that positioning and they've reworked it to make the website more compelling, more effective, and make it a conversion engine. So that's number one, where you go. So I'll give you an example of a website that would need better positioning. Like you can take your position doesn't work. So there's a company called Ring DNA. Their website position is grow revenue faster, transform your sales team into a high performance revenue engine. I don't know what that means. I don't know what a high performance revenue engine is. So I reworked their positioning on their website, and it's accelerate the sales cycle with insights that engage the right prospects, AI-driven data that delivers complete visibility into every step of the sales journey, right? So you can take really good positioning, and if you don't translate it into website copy, then your positioning doesn't deliver the ROI you need. So that's number one. Number two is reimagine your sales decks. So take what makes you unique, the value that you deliver, and the problems that you solve, and infuse all that information into decks that talk about the problems that customers are encountering and the ways that you can resolve them and how you're unique. So as many sales decks are about the product. Our product is great. It costs this much. It has these features. You should buy it. And that's not an effective use of how you position yourself in the markets. To your point about product roadmaps, positioning definitely impacts product roadmaps. So you get product meets positioning, meets marketing. So positioning, as I said earlier, reflects the needs, the pains, the things that customers are telling you and what they want and how they do their jobs. And so in an ideal world, positioning and product meet together, and you can change and you can influence the product roadmap. So product may think, because they may operate in a silo if they're not talking to customers, we got to do this, we got to build these features. But positioning can essentially say, no, these are what customers are telling us. This is what matters to them. And this is how we can make our product even more unique right now, even more compelling. Content marketing is completely an obvious choice for better positioning, because once you know what your customers are, Once you know them inside out, and how you can position yourself as being different, then your blog posts, your videos, your infographics, your LinkedIn posts can all be underpinned by your point of view, how you're strategically different from everybody else. A more focused advertising campaigns, just sort of, you just repurpose your positioning and be simple about why your product matters, and it's a great way of just basically having more effective, more impactful advertising. So those are some of the ways that you can pollinate your positioning into your sales and marketing activity and your product as well.
I love it. I love the framework, very clear, 10 steps, and the one that I often miss, like actually implementing the positioning, right? Now, I've had somebody here, Eve, share his own positioning of their company called Nolia. I don't know if you had a look at it, but I'm just gonna paste again. So Eve, he's turning on his camera. He knows already the spiel. Hi, Eve.
Hi.
I also dropped his positioning, the text in the chat, Mark. So take it away, guys.
All right. So Eve, why don't you tell me what your positioning is, and I'll give you some down and dirty thoughts on whether it works or not.
Well, hi, Mark. I posted it in the chat. So the positioning that we currently use is, we state that we're the most complete and intelligent modular software for contract, legal case, and information management, helping corporate legal departments to become proactive and in control.
That is a mouthful. That's so I guess my first impression is that if I didn't know your industry, that would be confusing to me. There's a lot to unpack there. I think first impressions are, you're trying to say a lot in a short period of time. I think you really have to simplify it. And the thing is, for the people that you're trying to target, why does it matter to them? Like, what is your product? What does it do? And how does it make their lives different? It strikes me that the thing that you're acting is more proactive and in control. Well, that may be the essence of the value that you deliver, but I don't know what that means in terms of how's it going to change how they do business. So I would the first part, which is all about you, really doesn't matter, because you can get into that later. What you really need to focus on is who are your customers?
Mid-sized corporates.
Lawyers?
Also law firms, but it's a legal counsel, not so much lawyers.
So for legal counsel, or the people that use your product, why do they care? Why do they need your product, right? Focus on that and how you're going to make their lives more productive. You're going to make them smarter. You're going to reduce their workload. Whatever it is, you need to focus on them and not your product. It's way too product heavy right now.
But you need to understand what it is that you do.
Yeah, but I would say that, but you've got to simplify it. It's very complicated. There's a lot there. There's too much there. I mean, if you can boil down what you do in a few words and then focus on who's it for and how you're unique, then you've got better positioning. And the one thing I think that what you're highlighting is a lot of companies believe that they need to tell everything all at the same time, and storytelling, which is sort of an adjunct of positioning, is really around how the story unfolds. So it's a series of chapters. So you start with the introduction, and then gradually you tell them more and more and more. Good positioning sparks the question, so how do you do that? Tell me more. Oh, that's interesting, because you don't make them think, make them too much thinking up front, right? So you have to sort of have an elegant approach to your marketing and your positioning. And I think what you're doing is you're trying to use brute force by basically telling everybody everything right away. And I just think that it's more confusing than anything else.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Hey, so anybody else would like to get challenged, please drop a comment, share your positioning, share your website. Mark is going to give you some feedback on that. There we go. Oprim.ca. Do you see it, Mark?
Yes, I do.
You know what? I'm just gonna open that up and share my screen. Or otherwise, if you want to share a screen because you maybe want to
No,
scroll down or.
no, you can share your screen. That's fine.
All right, so let me do that. All right, did I get it right?
Transforming your business through ingenious software solutions. Well, number one is I don't know what transform your business means. For one, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean sales, marketing, advertising, operations, and ingenious software solutions. What's an ingenious software solution? Again, very generic positioning, really doesn't tell, whose business? Everybody's business, all kinds of businesses, specific types of businesses. That's number one. And agile is the core to every engagement we indulge in. Well, my reaction is, and I don't mean this to be irreverent or anything, but agile, do your customers really care that you're agile? Your positioning needs to be about your customers, not about your product. Because as I said earlier, customers don't care about your product or your platform or your technology. What they care about is themselves. And customers are very self-serving, and what they're interested in is what's in it for me. So this messaging doesn't work because it's about op-prim, has nothing to do with customers. And arguably this messaging could be applied to any type of company out there. There's nothing unique about this messaging.
And I think it's also quite a challenging space because it's, if I scroll down, it's basically a technology partner. So they develop solutions. So it's a software development company, right? So one of the things that I found for a business like that, which is quite a commodity space, like there's thousands and thousands of software development companies, digital transformation companies, is positioning, also focusing on a specific type of customer. Like the narrower you can go, even like going very narrow to specific industry. Like we had one of the clients who decided to go down to advertising technology space. So they've positioned themselves as the experts in whatever specific technologies they needed for the advertising technology companies. This helps enormously because you are showing the expertise from that space.
You make a good point. And if you've listened to anybody listen to April Dunford, who is the queen of positioning, she talks about a software company that was competing, I think, in the CRM space, and they were struggling. And what they did is they discovered that a lot of investment bankers love their software. And so they reimagined their positioning to focus on a CRM for investment bankers. And many people believe there's a danger in backing yourself into a corner by focusing on a specific niche. But in very competitive marketplaces, that's how you do positioning. That's how you clearly articulate who you're really for. And you don't have to be for everybody. You can be for a small group of people, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Be the big fish in a small pond.
Exactly.
So we have a couple more, but before we jump into the next one, Ed was asking, could you please just quickly recap the 4 pillars of positioning?
Yeah, I'm glad that, Ed, that you asked that. So basically and these are really simple, right? And it just takes some time to think them through and focus on making them as easy to understand as possible. So what do you do? So number one, so focus on your product, but again, right? Focus on your product, and it's very simple. This product does this, right? Who do you serve? So again, customers, and being really clear on knowing who your customers are and what they want and their pains. And that means talking to your customers. The value that you deliver. So what are the biggest benefits? Like, why does your product matter? What does it do that is going to delight the customer? It's going to make them a lot happier and more successful. And the fourth one is how are you unique? And again, I want to emphasize is it doesn't have to be a major difference. It can be something small. But if it's true to your company and it reflects in how your product delivers, then that's enough. That's enough to establish really good positioning.
All right, we have, I think, another software development company. So do you have any feedback for Ideasoft, Mark?
Again, I think they're suffering from precision in every detail. I don't really know what that necessarily means. Employs technology innovation by delivering outstanding product, modernizing systems, and implementing emerging technologies to ensure better business outcomes. Again, this is all about the product or service and nothing about the customer. And there's nothing here that would strike me why this company is unique in any way. So I think the two examples that you've shown are very company centric or product centric and have very little to do with customers. And this is I could argue that this is very generic messaging. Like any company could say this, any software company could say this, but it says nothing about how this company stands out and why it's different.
Elizabeth, did you want to ask a question because I saw you turn on your camera, or just thank you also for no? Thank you. Anyhow, we have a couple more. We have TGS. Okay. This is very
yeah. Okay. So the good thing about this company is that so I know what they do. So and I know who they do it for. So this positioning stands head and shoulders above what we've seen already because it's super simple, right? And then their positioning, it's a little wordy. I think there should be more of an emphasis on the benefits delivered to creative teams. There's a lot about features in there, but I would say it's pretty good. I would just highlight how this product is unique, and I'd highlight the benefits, like what's the value of using this software. But all in all, not bad at all.
All right. Again, if you wanna come on, if you have questions, follow-up questions, I think this was from Dries. Yes, it was. So Dries, if you have a follow-up question, feel free to just jump on, turn your camera on, turn your mic on, and ask.
Yeah, one thing is that Stefan pointed out that the company that April Dunford was working for was a database company, and they were competing against SAP, and they were struggling until they made that focus on the investment banker. So thanks, Stefan, for pointing that out.
Right. Yeah, it's a famous case. She was saying that these bankers were like in the room and they were like jumping up and down, up and down, up and down.
Yeah,
it's crazy when bankers jump like that. It's something crazy happening.
Yeah, and she tells a good story. She tells that story all the time, but it really is it illustrates the power of good positioning.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a couple of things moving here.
Just triads. Defend and disrupt with cloud. What does that mean? Leverage the cloud to turn the tide and compete. Oh, I missed that one. I hate sliders, to be honest with you. Oh, they drive me crazy because they go too fast and I can't figure out what they do. I don't know what ServiceNow partner. Well, that doesn't matter to me. I don't care if you're a ServiceNow partner. Industry expertise, diffusing threats, disruptions, very product centric. I don't know who they serve specifically. What's the value that they deliver? They bring decades of research. I don't really care about the book, to be honest with you. Leverage the cloud to turn the tide and compete with high tech and startups. How do you do that? So again, right? It's messaging that very product centric. I would suggest that they turf the slider and focus on having a static homepage with messaging with positioning that focuses on the pillars. Who do they serve? What kind of companies they serve? What's the value that they deliver? And how are they unique? Again, right? I mean, if you look at reimagine value, we help leaders and organizations reimagine value to stakeholders and transform their digital technologies. Everybody does that. Anybody could say that, right? So, not a lot of sort of generic talking, and I don't mean to be insult anybody or to talk about, but this is me from the outside looking in. First impressions, right? And I'm a lot like a lot of people. Like, first impressions matter. And if you don't capture my attention and really tell me why you matter to me, I'm going to move on.
All right, and we have one more.
Okay, well, I know number one, what you do and how you're going to help me. So that's a good thing. We're an SEO agency that I hate those things because they're trying to collect email addresses.
I can't. Oh my God, I can't get rid of it. Well, what should I do? I hope they don't.
Maybe just refresh. Okay, so we're an SEO that helps software companies scale their brands, shorten sales cycles, lower customer acquisition, and be known to as the go-to authority in their sector. Don't like the second part. The first part got me. The second part is like how do you stand out from all the other SEO agencies out there? What's your unique sauce? What's your methodology? What kind of companies do you serve? So it's sort of there, but it needs a little. It's a list of features, or at least, but it's not really about value that delivered. Like, is it that they have better software, in-house software? I don't know. Like, I love the first part. The second part they kind of dropped the ball with the second part.
Yeah, I think the very important thing, of course, if you're in such a competitive space, there's so many SEO agencies, you have to.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, go down the page and let's see what they talk about down the page, right? User focused content. Anything else? No. Yeah, it's pretty basic. Pretty basic. They do their content marketing.
That's
Yeah. So they're a B2B SEO and content marketing agency. I didn't know that. I thought they were an SEO agency, right? And then they say, and they're travel tech and prop tech. That's got to be their positioning. Like, there are tons of SEO agencies out there, but if they can say we're the SEO agency for travel tech and prop tech companies, then the good thing about that positioning is they basically say to everybody else, we're not for you. Like, you go work with somebody else. But if you're a travel tech company or prop tech company, we're the experts. Like, why would you want to work with anybody else when you can work with someone who really knows your industries? And that's their position. That's what's missing in their positioning right there.
Absolutely. There was a question being asked first. Elat, I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Do you want to come online, or otherwise I can read your question out loud? For them to come, working on website messaging at the moment. What is your take on this message? She cannot, or he or she cannot turn their cam on. Our proprietary AI-driven solution enables e-commerce leaders to transform business data into multi-channel ads tailored to shoppers' buying behavior.
I think that dozens, if not hundreds of companies could say exactly the same thing. And the other thought is that there's a lot of information in a short package. And I think, again, goes back to your focus on simplicity. Tell me what you do and why you matter. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo, AI driven technology. Everybody uses that. But I think you just got to take a step back and say, okay, so what do we do and why does it matter? Right? And who do we serve? There's a lot of generic positioning, I'm hearing a lot of generic positioning, and I think that's just people just not doing the work. And it's not easy. Positioning is not easy. Sometimes it takes a lot of sort of iterations to get it right. But if you're just being generic, then how do you stand out from every other company that sounds like you?
All right. They do say, they serve e-commerce shops, and they offer basically multi-channel ads based on the shopper's behavior. That's kind of what I took out of it.
I think that if they focus more on shopper behavior and multi-channel ads, that might be a better place to sort of simplify their positioning. The rest of it, I don't care about, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. I love it. So we had a question. What is your favorite CTA, call to action on a website?
I would say that a free strategy session is. I hate ask for a demo. I'm trying to figure out, like, is there a better way to get people to take a demo, then ask for a demo. I'm sure Stefan Repin probably has some ideas in the chat. Like essentially calls to action are, learn more. I don't know. I mean, it's talking to somebody. Like if you're a B2B SaaS company, if your sales cycle is longer, you want a conversation. You don't care about a demo. You just want people to talk to you. So, let's have a conversation, talk to an expert, see how we can help your business. It should be, I guess it should be about the prospect and not about the company. The company wants a demo. So that's what they're saying, ask for a demo, because we really want demos. But that's not what the prospect wants. The prospect wants information, or they want insight, or they want some perspective or some feedback. And maybe CTA should be more geared towards them rather than the company itself.
I think you bring a really important point. If they want a demo, they want to know more about a product, so offer the information about the product, maybe offer even like a video that explains the product, offer more information, because at the end they will know, if they have the information they need, they will find a way to contact you. Like if they want to talk to you, they will find a way to talk to you. If they can't find a way to talk to you, you have a big problem, of course, in the website, right? But I think I will focus on like removing the friction and just offering like the information buyers are actually looking to get. We have two people asking to go live and ask a question. Maria, do you want to turn on your camera and ask? Or otherwise,
may I make it without the camera, please?
No worries.
So, my question is what to do when a company offers really many business solutions for other companies and has quite a few internal products. What is the best point of focus in its positioning to highlight all the opportunities we can provide to other business, but still stand out from the competitors?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the answer, I think the answer is that you create what I call umbrella positioning. And it's positioning that sits on top of all the products they do. So again, and I don't know your business, you really have to focus on the type of customers that you're focused on. So be very clear about, we have all these products and they serve these specific types of customers. So that's number one. Number two is what is the common denominator of all the products that you offer? Is it about productivity? Is it about speed? Is it about making growing their e-commerce businesses? Like what is something that connects all of them? So that would be number two. And number three would be, how are you unique? Is your methodology? Is it the fact that your products are easy to implement or easy to embrace? So you've got to basically find common denominators between all your products and then create this umbrella messaging. And then the next part of the journey is to say, okay, here's how you can use our products. And if you're this type of customer, or these use cases, and then you steer them sort of down the path that's most appropriate to them. But the way that you're going to get them is to make your platform relevant in some way, shape, or form. So they go, okay, that sounds interesting. They're focused on me. They're kind of unique in this way. I'm going to spend the time to maybe do a little work. And your job is to make the next step super simple.
Thank you, really.
All right. Dries, did you want to come on and ask your question? You mentioned you wanted to ask a question.
Oh God, Lord. I just had one question. I know that creating concepts is very hard. So also creating a website and copywriting that comes with it. And I have a sort of takeaway for myself. So basically what I do for each section, I just ask myself why questions and see how far I can get. And I hope that the section beneath is an answer to that, or should be an answer to that. But do you have like a sort of trick or a thing that you say that's my magical thing to go to that you could share? Or
I don't know if there's a magical trick or a hack, but I think it comes back to the fact that I think position in your website has to be customer centric. It really has to answer like, why does it matter to me? Like explain to me what impact this is going to have on my life. There are parts of the website where you'll talk about the product, you'll explain how it works, you'll talk about the benefits. But the key to positioning is really to be crystal clear on here's what we can do for you. Here are the biggest benefits for you. Here are the features that you're going to love. Here's the ways that we're going to solve problems, and you can pepper that through your website and your sales decks and your content marketing. But when you talk about product, when companies get too engrossed with their technology, and AI is something that a lot of companies, I think, get seduced by, then you fall into the trap of becoming very product centric. And I keep saying it because I believe it, is that customers don't care. At some point in time, the IT department will care, but not in the early stages of when you're it's like dating. You're not going to tell everybody everything about your life, but at some point you will. But initially, you just want to engage them and make it all about them.
Yeah, because I relate to that when you were judging the website that I sent, like the Talons one with the artwork approval software.
Right.
I was looking at it and I was like, oh yeah, it is a bit wordy. So you do have a point, but I was already glad that you said like, at least I know what they're doing, and that gives me an idea. But I think like maybe we are more tense to make things more complicated. Do you believe that's some sort of thing?
Absolutely, because entrepreneurs love their products. They love their technology. I mean, they live and breathe this thing 24/7. So they have a very siloed view of the world, which is why talking to customers and prospects and going to conferences is super important, because you get different views and people will tell you different things that you would never even think about. So I would suggest with your positioning when it comes to your website is tell me why you're different. Tell me how you make the life of creative teams better, easier, more successful. Try not to get into the features, but more about the benefits. And in fact, you may be the only artware software out there that does what you do, right? Or the only one that, I don't know about your product, but I think you're on the right path. You're definitely on the right path. I mean, for any company, if they're going to take a takeaway from what you guys did, is tell me what you do and who it's for. That's it. If you can start with that, then you're going down the right path.
Sorry, Dries, I just have a couple more people who are waiting here. We have a really amazing engaged group tonight, this evening in Europe, or this morning, or at your side. But before we do go and address other questions that we have, because I know some people will have to leave on the hour, just let me know in the meantime, what did you think of the session? Give us some feedback. We love to hear your feedback. Please share that with us, and we'll go on and address the next question. Elizabeth, are you still with us? Do you want to ask your question live?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi.
So I'm part of an organization that 10 days into my onboarding, we were acquired, and then they acquired another company. So there were 3 organizations now that are integrating, consolidating, coming together. And we're right in that whole, what is our messaging? What is our positioning now going to market? And so I was invited by mistake to a project from one of our growth marketing team. And they were talking about revamping our landing page and a few things about, how do we structure this whole, demo call to action request, or what are the unique selling points that we're going to use? My question, I was invited accidentally, by the way. So I was like, I got excited because marketing is actually asking for sales feedback. I'm an account executive, by the way. So my question is, what are the do's and don'ts from the marketing side of the house when they are figuring out how to finalize the landing page and landing on what unique selling points? Is it like, let's go into our customer base and validate these with our customers? Let's give it, let's give our sales team a chance to review and share their feedback. Like, what are the do's and don'ts and some best practices around that?
Well, I've talked about it before, but talking to your customers, customer insight, customer intelligence is number one. And number two is that there's no way you should be invited by accident as a salesperson into a marketing process. You should be invited into the process. There should be a collaborative process. And the key to positioning, and I'm glad you sort of pointed this out, is that positioning really thrives when there's multiple stakeholders at the table: customer success, customer service, sales, marketing, executive teams, because everyone's going to come in with their own perspectives and their own biases. Everyone's going to have different views of the world, and a positioning exercise galvanizes all those different points of view. So one of the things you need to think about is, as a salesperson, as an account manager, you're on the front lines. You're talking to prospects and customers all the time. You're hearing what their needs are. They're telling you about the competitive options that they're considering, or they're sort of maybe not directly. And marketing usually has no clue about what's going on. They're not having those conversations. You're on their typewriters and their keyboards, and they're putting together some really great marketing stuff. They have no clue. So if you're not at the table from a positioning perspective, then they're dealing with inadequate or insufficient information. So my advice to your organization is get everybody involved. If this positioning exercise is going to take off, get everybody involved. And then you can, like, you start with lots of people at the table, and then you can boil it down so you only have a few key stakeholders or key people sort of deciding on the ultimate positioning. But that's my recommendation to your organization.
Hey, Mark, I have somebody here who actually implemented your advice already.
Really? All right.
Yes. If you remember, Nolia, the legal department, B2B corporates and law firms. Eve, do you want to share your updated positioning? Because I found that really cool.
Yeah, I thank you, Vlad. I tried to rephrase what we just discussed. So it became now find the necessary contract, document, email, or case in less than 10 seconds. Legal information management software with the best TCO, helping B2B corporates and law firms to become proactive and in control.
The first part, love it. So it's basically, how are you different? 10 seconds or less, right? What do you do? Well, you can find contracts and emails. Second part, I think you're suffering from trying to say too much. So the second part is, who exactly do you serve? Like, is it legal counsel, lawyers, right? And what's some of the, give me a little more value, right? Like 10 seconds, finding stuff fast is great, but what else it is about your software that delivers value other than speed, right? So it's everything at their fingertips, or it's, easy access from anywhere. I don't know, but the first part is awesome. That's great. Second part, boiled, it's like tighter, right?
Okay.
Tell me less. It's funny because when you tell me less, it's actually going to tell me more, right? I don't know. It's a funny way of saying things, but when you tell me too much, then I get lost.
All right.
Okay.
Winston.
Work in progress.
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you for implementing already during the call. That's amazing.
Well, Vladimir, the thing about it is, hey, listen, here's the thing, is that obviously I spend a lot of time thinking about positioning, but it's not that hard if you keep things simple, right? It's just dumb it down. You can dumb it down and then you can build it back up again, but we overthink positioning. And it harms us. So just dumb it down, and imagine if you're at a cocktail party. This is my trick. Somebody asked about a hack. If you're at a cocktail party and someone tells you, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I work for a software company that does this for this, right? And if you tell them the wrong answer, you know what they're going to do? They're going to move on. They're going to say, well, that was interesting. Or they'll ask you about your, but if they get what you're doing, then they say, hey, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more. It's the cocktail trick. That's my trick for the day.
Can you stay on for a couple more minutes, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Happy to talk.
Questions coming. Winston, did you want to share your website? Did you want to get feedback? You asked in the chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Vlad. As I mentioned, it's not complete yet. You can hear me. I'm currently working on it, and the position is actually something I've been working on. So, feel free to pull it apart. Don't worry, I won't get offended.
But can you just, okay, now we have it. Yeah, we have it. Sorry, now I have the link. Let me just share this. All right.
Align marketing to make selling easier. Any company could say that. Lots of companies could say that. So you have a revenue alignment framework, which focuses on full funnel content marketing. That's interesting. If it's unique to you, if it's something that, it's proprietary, or something that's your secret sauce, that's something you should talk about. Full funnel content marketing. Yeah. Okay. That's not something interesting. Although you could reimagine that saying content for the entire marketing and sales journey or the entire customer journey, which would be good. How does marketing activities contribute to revenue? There's something there. There's something there as well. I think your initial position on your website is it's just marketing terms. But you do say, and B2B tech companies, what kind of B2B tech companies? All kinds or specific kinds? So there's some things there, but I think if you went to a cocktail party and you said the line up top, I don't think people would really know what you did, to be honest with you. But if you said, listen, we help B2B companies turn content into revenue and using a unique alignment framework, that might say to me, okay, how does that framework work? Right? That's what you have to do. But that's my sort of quick advice on that. You got it. You got some of the elements. You're just not telling the right story.
All right.
Right. And does it help that, because there's actually a video when you click the button that says see how, there's actually a video below that breaks it down further. So, I mean, I get what you're saying and I agree. I'm just wondering if that makes any difference.
Yeah, but if I don't click on the video, I'm never going to find out.
Right. Okay.
All right. Maria, you wanted to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, just little one. I hope so. So if we were going to focus on umbrella positioning, how friendly will be the CGM on the landing page of a website so that the funnel of the deal is still be not super complicated for the visitor and he still can able to understand why we are unique. But it's sound for me like, okay, I understand that we're gonna to make some umbrella positioning, but it's all about the landing page. First contact, and then he need to know about all the benefits we can provide and all the solutions we can make for the client. But for me, it's sound very difficult about exactly the CGM.
So, I mean, with landing pages will be much more specific. They can talk to specific use cases or buyer personas because you'll try to use your advertising, try to use social media, try to use LinkedIn to drive people to things that matter to them. So you can have positioning that's very sort of high level and very strategic, but you can have messaging that's much more specific and personalized to different types of customers. You shouldn't confuse the two. Positioning is sort of an internal exercise that underpins your organization. Messaging is how you talk to different audiences in different ways. So that's fine. That's the realities of marketing.
Thank you.
I think we managed to get through all the questions. If I miss somebody, if somebody still wants to ask a follow-up question, we can take another one, Mark.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk.
All right. So if there's somebody else who wanna ask a question, either drop it in a comment or turn on your camera, turn on your mic and ask away. If not, that's amazing. So thanks everybody for such an engagement. This was such a fun session for me. I hope it was for you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for sharing all your knowledge. Maybe just to wrap it up. After to jump out. Okay, I thought you wanted to jump in. But Mark, just to wrap it up, where can people find you? Where's the best way to connect with you, to ask you questions, to learn more about what you do?
So a couple of places. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn like you do. So if you search for Mark Evans, fractional CMO, you'll find me. Just connect with me. Let me know that you participated in the conversation and I'll connect with you. Second will be my website, which is marketingspark.co. And you can also connect me via email, mark@markevans.ca. And if you have questions, if you want me to look at your positioning or your website, I'm happy to give you sort of a quick sort of review of what you're doing and what I think. But I love the conversation. I love talking about positioning. I love, people's interest in trying to tell a better story. So yeah, that's great. And the other thing that I think you're going to share with people is I have a do-it-yourself guide for positioning. that walks through the 10 steps, that highlights some of the deliverables. You don't have to give me an email address. It's completely free. I think Vladimir is going to share it in the post email. But it's a great way to sort of start with your own positioning, because I think a lot of people can do it by themselves, and that's a good thing. And if they need help, you can always reach out.